welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to another recap review of the MGM Plus show, The Emperor of Ocean Park. I'm here again, Lucas, with my guy, Cheer. What's going on this evening, sir?
What up? What up? Very excited to get into this episode. Seriously, this one. Like this series been good, but this has been this episode here.
Hey, this is we'll call this one Police Still Don't Like Black People edition of The Emperor of Ocean Park.
And don't forget the sub narrative of this one is white tears. Because they were on display. Was it racism? Or would you say was it racist when how did she respond to that? Something I've never heard before. When
the most disrespectful thing ever to hear him say, "I was beaten by police," and she said, "Was it racial?"
Yeah, was it racial? was it colored? Like, what was she? What was her point here?
She wanted to say, "Did you deserve it?"
Yes,
because you were missing classes.
Yes. That's exactly where she was going at.
Let's jump directly into the episode again. The episode opens up where we last left off, and that was Tao after he's been brutally beaten and the digital book has been taken away from him because they think those are the arrangements. We get on this scene. The cops come. You're thinking the cops are coming there to help or protect Tao. They come there, arrive, and say they got a report of a disturbance. As Tao is on the ground, getting up with blood coming out of his mouth, they ask him first, "Are you drunk?" And he said, "No, I was beaten up." And they said, "Are you sure you were beaten up?"
It's not even funny, but damn, man.
And then they proceed to beat him up some more and arrest him. And then we get Kimber as she arrives at the precinct to get Tao out of prison. And she is irate as humanly possible that he's even been locked up. No one can give her a straight answer. Tao comes out. She sees Tao is beaten. And she asks him what happened. And that's when he tells her, "I got jumped and robbed, leaving the chess game. And also, part of the bruises are also from what the police did to me." Just what did you think about the episode opening up in this fashion? Because this is an element we have not seen in this show yet, just to show the bias of police officers also.
Yeah, I know we laughed a lot already, but like in all seriousness, I'm just like, man, like it always becomes a little bit triggering whenever you see it because these things happen. And I mean, I know it seems a little cynical, but these things happen. My man called the police on the ground in a puddle of blood, and they thought he was the problem. Like, it's just kind of wild. And I mean, like, it's very easily to understand when somebody called it in, the descriptors that they gave them. They say probably 2 white men and 1 black guy. And at that point, they thought the black guy was the problem. It's like, yeah, it's like, you know what I mean? So yeah, on that note, I was kind of like, yeah, but then obviously in the lens of the show, I started to think like, all right, now who's behind this, and I think I quickly let it go, because I think the next scene with Kimber, I just started to think like, is this her?
Cops.
I thought like, yeah, do she have some type of connect with the cops? Could she be doing this? I mean, would she go this deep in order to gain sort of that leverage in the household? Because right now it is about a measure of tug of war between the two of them. And then ultimately, too, she still has her ultimate goal, and that's the optics within the household. You know what I mean? So could this do something to win favor in her manner? But we see that absolutely didn't, because later she had a problem with this. So, I just kind of was. I think honestly, the one thing I landed on in this beginning scene was like, well, we're definitely in for a ride on this episode.
Yeah, exactly. And then the following scene, we get Tao and Kimber back home, and this is a very interesting scene. If the way he turns everything around on Kimber, as she tells him, "You need to take off from work. I'm taking off to take care of you." And this is where he breaks down and tells her everything. Yeah. "I know you're messing with someone else. This is not on me," because she tried to flip it and said, "Everything that's going on with our family, everything, the distrust is all because of you." And
Yeah.
he flips it and says, no, this is all on you. And whoever you're messing with, you need to end it now or we're over. Did you think that Tal would give her that as an ultimatum?
No, but it's about time. I think we all been waiting for him to stand up for himself. And you know, it was interesting. I thought he actually meant it. So for one moment, I was like, yes, there we go. You know what I mean? Stand up for yourself, because he's definitely been nothing but a doormat for her. But you know, sometimes you gotta stick to your initial thoughts.
Exactly. And we see those initial thoughts play out as we go right back to 2015 as we're planning their wedding, as we see Tal, the judge, and his mom, who've not seen a lot of in this series so far, but this is a key part. A reason why we don't see her a lot is that she is sick at this point in the timeline, and as they're planning their wedding, and we see the wedding planner try to set certain dates, and Tal tell him it needs to be moved up, and we know it needs to be moved up because he doesn't believe his mom has that much time left. Yeah. Right after that, as the wedding planner asks, am I going to get a chance to speak to the bride again? We go to Tal going in the back to have a conversation with Kimber. And here is again her control issues, as we see her attempting to fax something to her ex-husband because she is mad that he's selling their property below market value and thinks it's because he's trying to get back at her for ending their marriage while cheating and going with another man. And we see here kind of the control she has over Tal, because it felt like he had no balls standing up to her in this situation, and he literally had to use that his mom was sick for her to even talk to the wedding planner. Did this give you any insight into their relationship when you see this flashback?
I don't know. I mean, again, I tried to give him a measure of grace. I think because the fact that like just over there is his mom, and they were in the same place still here, right?
Yeah,
I couldn't tell by how they cut it.
Home. The Martha's Vineyard home.
Yeah, okay. So yeah, it's just interesting that, you know, just right over there, mom and dad is there, and I think because of the nature of his mother's health, I think that that's the utmost priority. So I think he kind of put himself to the side for the sake of her. So his response, I don't fault him, but I think it absolutely shows a lot about her character bright and early. That even in the nature of what's happening with his mother, she prioritized everything else. I mean, these are precious moments that they, as a married couple, won't get again. Yeah, but they certainly won't get it with his mother, considering that his mother don't have that much time. So I don't know, man. I feel like we need to do a tally in terms of like who's absolutely the worst of this series, and Kimber just got like 4 strikes right there in that short, quick breath, because it's just, you gotta think about this, man. Like take the mom out of it. This is them get ready to get married, and you're worried about your ex-husband right now. Exactly. So it's weird, and even if you work like the money, like the business, like work, all this right now. I'll tell you, man, if this had been a guy, this would have been a whole Lifetime movie right here in this one scene. Or I don't know, you know what, I could go worse than that.
No, you can say it. You can say it. Everybody knows. This is clearly the beginning of a Tyler Perry movie, right before he starts beating his wife because she's interrupting his business. We know what this is. We know exactly what this would be if Kimber was the man and Tal was the woman. She'd have came in that room. That man would have Blair Underwood her, and I forget which one he was in. And that would have been it of it. But here, I'm going to skip directly to their next scene before we talk about Mariah, because I think Mariah's 2 following scenes is actually just one full scene. And the next scene between Tal and Kimber is Tal is in the bathroom nursing his wounds, and he overhears Kimber saying to someone on the phone, having sex with you was the biggest mistake I made, but he's a good man, and and it's over. We're not doing this anymore. What did you think about him overhearing that? And who did you think, or who do you think she's on the other end of that phone talking to?
Now, first thing I thought was like, okay, Kimber hasn't been sloppy to this point. This is extremely sloppy. And I will say, like, if this is one of those type of things where after that conversation, she decided to wise up and end things on site, then she had no reason to hide it. I mean, he said he knew what it was, so I'm just
Yeah.
like, yeah, this seems even more suspicious right now. So no, I never thought it was her boss. I thought this was a matter of fact. I didn't think she was talking to anybody. I thought it was a full out ploy that she was just going out there to make it seem like something it wasn't. But again, I think because of the nature of the show, and that's why I like this show, because I think there's a measure of logic. And I think there's always a measure of like suspicion based on the different curveballs that the show throws you. So it's too obvious that it would be the boss. So I also was like, it's definitely, I thought like she's not talking to nobody, or she's some kind of ploy. That's why she's making it all hot by doing it right around the corner where she knows he can hear her. She's never been sloppy to this point in her actions. Or obviously it's somebody else that we don't know about.
She thinks he's upstairs and she's in the kitchen having this conversation.
Man.
Like, hey, I'm just saying, I'm shooting some bail here because I do think she's talking to somebody. I just don't know who the hell that person is.
Now,
and the only reason I think it's somebody because of what she said last episode when Tal first approached her with it, and she said, "I've done," and we talked about it. She said, "I did something that's unforgivable," but she was very adamant it was not with her boss, and Tal wouldn't allow her to finish the thought because he was mad about something completely
good
different.
point. Yeah.
We brought up like, look, you messing up. Let her finish. She was about to tell you exactly what she was doing.
Yeah.
And you jumped out the window because you was angry about everything else. So I'm more interested at this point to see exactly who this person is that Kimber's with, because clearly no one thinks is the boss at this point. So we got to see who it is. But next up was Mariah's two scenes. First, it starts off with her taking her kids to school in the morning, and she notices her car is broken into. The following scene with them is the police arrive on the scene to investigate everything, and Mariah asks them, does it look like somebody meant to do this? Like someone's after me. And they ask, why would someone be after you? She proceeds to walk off as she receives a call from Jack telling her, Jensen is a dangerous man. Stop looking into him. Yeah. I can't protect you if you keep on doing this, and your whole family will be in danger. What did you think about, again, us finally seeing and hearing from Jack again, and this warning that he gave her?
Yeah, his health again. We have another dire person and with I don't know at this rate now. This it's not probably not even a good joke. But I was going to say the judge seems to attract this. It seems the folks around him. But no, I just think that I think that again the curveballs within the show. I think that this was and could be one of the big points within the plot that Uncle Jack may not actually be a bad person.
Hey.
He really might just be pulling the strings in the background to protect the family. This could be a dying oath of sorts with the judge. Yeah, we just don't know. I mean, we've just been led to think he was a bad person because he works with Alphabet Boys. And again, I mean, we always attest this to Snowfall that Teddy was an asset until he became a liability. He was never a liability to Franklin. Exactly. Until the Alphabet Boys decided that he was a liability to them, did he become dangerous because he did any and everything to protect himself or to get back into the agency. So I think that Uncle Jack, with the power that he has, and we don't know his statute. I mean, this is kind of getting a little deep here. We don't know his statute with being with them. Is he retired? Is he a contractor? Is he considered fed? And all those are important because we talk about the protection and what he can do. But I think for everything that Mariah it makes him to be, I think for everything that everyone said he is, And listen, Steph Curry is the most dangerous shooter on the court, but if he's on your team, you're not in a bad position.
Hey,
you know what I mean?
You feel the best luck in the world when the best shooter is on your team.
You know what I mean?
That's the best way to put it. Yep.
So I think the warning, I mean, when you hear one dangerous person say to another about another dangerous person, you definitely got to take that for what it is. So I think it's going to be interesting to see how Mariah tends to take this information beyond this, because I don't think it was until, and maybe it still didn't resonate with her, but I don't think it was till that dinner scene where she might actually wonder, like, oh snap, there's as I said last episode, there's another player on the field, and that's what it was revealed to me. I was like, this other mystery person who has some measure of power and influence and potentially dangerous. I did not think it was going to be this guy, but here we are.
Exactly, and we got to realize that Jack has been pointed as the bad guy only because of the judge's confirmation hearing. And all they brought up was, why was you seeing Jack so often with someone with his track record?
Yeah.
So we've never actually put two and two together to find out exactly why the judge and Jack were so close. If we pay attention, Tao calls him Uncle Jack.
He could have been protecting him. He could have been protecting the judge until he couldn't. And why, when he couldn't, why not? What was the reason why he couldn't protect him? And then ultimately why he couldn't protect him, is that the reason why he feels this sworn duty to ensure that the rest of the family is protected? What does the arrangement say on that notion? It could be something just as simple as that, which also makes me go now to the other chick. What's her name? The one that just pops up every once in a while. Maxine.
Yeah.
Is she out here, doing a little bit of protection? Is that why she's just so around, kind of hiding, but kind of also in sight in random time? Is she protecting, Tao and the family?
I think we questioned that before when she hopped out that car and was running towards Tao. We said, well, was she running to get him or was she running to protect him?
Yeah.
And we just don't know which one it is. Again, that's an interesting thing. But next up, we go, and this is a quick scene, not much to talk about here because it's a second part that happens later on. As we go back to 2015, as Tao, while on the phone distracted, random three guys comes up to the Martha's Vineyard house and say, we're here to winterize the windows, and if we don't do it now, it's going to be a couple of months before we get back to you, and that the judge set up this appointment. And without question, because being naive is a thing for Tao at this point, he just allows the three men to come into the house. Again, nothing to talk about here, but some happens on later on in the episode that we're going to definitely talk about what Tao did there. But next up, my funniest scene of the episode, because I have said it over and over and over again. Mirai is the president of the Fuck Them Kids fans club. As here, her and Howard are in the bed. And she is researching Jensen even after the warning. And the baby is screaming its head off. And Howard looks over to her and says, don't you hear the baby? And she doesn't look up from her computer. And he just says, don't worry about it. I'll take care of it.
Hey,
again, not much to talk about here, but we're going to get to the point that you don't like the kids.
Listen, nothing against them and nothing against you all, because I'm very pro women and equality with women. But I gotta tell you, the feminists of the world probably are done with this show at this rate, because they're like, there ain't no way. There ain't no way. They are outraged. It's like, there's no way in the world a mother at that is out here treating their kids like that. And I know black women, listen, I gotta say, I enjoy the switching of norms here. Norms is a kind of a savage word to use, but yeah, I just appreciate things as being a little bit different here. If it had been my man TP, we already know what this would have been. Whole movie would have been done already, and we got we would have talked all about it. We knew exactly how it was going to end, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Cookie cutter approach from these movies.
A fall from grace when dude was in the bed and he said, ashtray, bitch. It'd have been that type of scene. This was a Tyler Perry show.
Yeah.
But also, I'm going to shoot Mariah a little bit of bail here. Even as a mom, and I know people think, as a mom, you got to run and get the kids. This is their fifth child.
Yeah.
It is a chance that mom will be like, look, you're going to let that baby cry. Because ain't nothing wrong. You fed, you clean. I'm not getting up and running for every time that baby cry. But it's just the point that she never looked up from the computer that made it so funny. But next up is just Tao and Kimber in the morning after the conversation. Here it's just them seeming to be completely in bliss. As Kimber is looking like she's still trying to find a way to apologize, but it seems like after that conversation, Tao is perfectly fine with everything. And he's completely forgiven her for everything that she did. Even gave her a little kiss in the morning as she was leaving.
Be very clear. After he eavesdropped to hear that conversation.
Yeah, exactly.
Everything is
she didn't tell him nothing.
Yeah, exactly.
She didn't tell him nothing.
Exactly.
But he overheard it.
Hey, listen, does she know her man better than anybody else? Yes. That's why I'm saying, like, all of this seems disingenuous. Like, she knew what she had to do in order to as I said, it's a big game of tug of war. Who's going to have the advantage over one another here? So who's on the couch? Who's in the doghouse? Who's going to get the upper hand? And right now, Kimber's back on top. She's out of the doghouse. And God, did she not let this live down? And I mean, that's what I think, again, what's interesting about the show is like the switching of the gender roles, because a guy would do this. The moment we get a moment to say like, you're wrong, it's on us, we ain't letting that shit go. We like, we cashing this one all the way to the bank here. And that's what she did. She's like, I got him back with the sympathy. Yeah, now let me just now figure out something to get him on, and it's a wrap. As if one, she apologized because that didn't happen. and two, her admitting that something's over also wasn't a measure of transparency that she ended anything to him. So the problem still essentially is still an issue because it hasn't been addressed. But that's no here nor there. We'll get to the other part.
Exactly. But right after the kiss is Tao walking to his car to get to school in the morning. And as he opens the door, he sees the envelope with the digital book in the seat. Yeah. Then he receives a phone call and tells them all of his problems have been solved. What did you think that meant? From him opening the car, getting a digital book, and then he receives a mysterious call, tell him everything is taken care of already.
No clue. The only issue that he had was trying to connect everything with the arrangement. So I was like, what did that mean? Like, is his legal issues? I mean, he just got arrested. I mean, he's not like, he didn't go to like federal prison or anything. Like, probably get a little fine, but like, honestly, he got so much more issues because he still got to go back to work and address that. So I didn't know what that meant. Honestly, I was just like, oh, okay. I mean, it's obviously his blood on it. So I was like, it's for him. And I already knew coincidentally, as soon as he opened it up, he was going to get a call. This all played out like a good old Mission Impossible moment. But yeah, him getting like your problem's been. I do we even know what it meant? Like even after the end of the episode, like
it meant that those two gentlemen who did what they did.
I didn't even think of that.
Your problems are taken care of because they were problems for Tao, and they were taken care of. That's
I didn't even think it. My
that's why he got the book back.
Yeah, my dumbass thought that they were somebody probably working for Uncle Jack. They beat him up because he didn't want to give the package. Uncle Jack needed to make sure it was what it was, and then he gave it back. Was like, cool, that's not it. You good to go. Everything's good. I didn't even think of that.
Uncle Jack solved his problem.
Yeah, that's right. Which means that these thugs, as they like to say, working for that other guy,
or somebody else that we still don't know who.
That's true. They were branded too. We haven't seen their brand show up again. They like the tattoos,
exactly,
and they lost a finger. That is a sign of the good old cartel right there. So they're in Chicago, so I doubt it. So are we? I mean, it's some gang. So I mean, we talking Chicago. We talking like
that, or they lost a finger because they put their hands on Tao, and Uncle Jack said, "Take their fingers before you kill them." Because you shouldn't have touched him. Like it's bringing more to light of exactly what is Uncle Jack's purpose here.
Yeah,
and is his purpose, as you said, something for the judge that he just swore to him. No matter what, I'll take care of the kids. But these arrangements is always a different issue altogether that no one knows anything about yet.
Yeah, this is not even a reach too, but I mean that's 1,000% right, because I don't know, FBI and cartel, they're one and the same.
There you go. We watch enough Godfather Harlem to know that. Like, it's no difference.
The removal of fingers is right on par. So yes, you're right.
But hey, you know who they need to ask exactly what's going on? My man, this security guard, who for some odd reason knows everything that happened to Tal.
We have all one of those type of guys in our life. God bless their heart.
Hey, as Tal is back on campus, and he said, "Man, I heard what happened. Oh man, it's fucked up what those cops did. Like, how is it no one else knows that Tal was beaten by cops?"
Hey man, my man got his ears close to the streets. All right,
my man,
he got that worry about.
Know exactly what happened to Tal. As Tal tells him he's not out the woods yet. He still got to go meet with the dean. Here we get the dean as she lays out everything with Tal, which is one, as we already knew, you've missed a lot of classes.
You need to get back to your black job, okay?
There you go. There you go. There you go. This Asian woman told him, "You need to get. You are messing us all up. We are all DEI hires here. You can't be fucking up." And next thing you know, I'm out of a job because you want to play Nancy Drew and do all this stuff. But as she just tells how you've missed too many classes. The students are noticing, the staff is noticing, maybe you need to take off time for the rest of the semester to deal with your emotional issues dealing with your father's death. This is where Tal tells her, as she said, "And look at you, you look a mess." And he says, "This is because I was assaulted by the police." And she said, "Oh my God, was it racial?"
Yep.
Meaning, Mr. Black Man, you sure you didn't do anything that caused the police to have to beat you?
Boy, did she have a whole different story to tell when she got home.
As Tal's response was, "If I was white, this wouldn't have happened." And her response to that was, "See, this is why you need to take an unpaid sabbatical." So you can deal with your issues.
Yo, Tal talking about he need his lawyer. This is the time he missed that opportunity. There's some type of claim here that needs to be addressed.
as Tal says he's fine and wants to continue working, she says, "Moving forward, there will be a zero tolerance policy as it pertains to you."
Yo, get EEO in there right now. This hey, hey, I ain't never heard something. I ain't never heard such a tragedy in leave arrangements. Like, first of all, apparently he didn't use his bereavement leave, right?
Or that's use it properly.
Yeah, well,
clearly
still should be there. But she says, "Listen, we'll give you we'll let you take your time off, but this one won't be paid. So no worries, just because you obviously need to take your time off because we know things are difficult for you." Nothing about, first of all, I also thought the moment that and then somebody bring that up saying that if you brought up that you were basically assaulted by police officers, that they may like do you a solid. Well, that didn't go at all that way.
Security guard.
Yeah, the security guard. Yeah. I mean, he might have been right. He might have thought like, yeah, they might show you a little bit of love because of that. She did absolutely nothing. She was just like, "Oh, let me address what you said is if it's your fault or not." "Oh, it's not your fault, but you still got beat up. So cool. Just take the time off, but we're not paying you. We'll see you back soon." Fuck around and fire him while he's not even working too. They're like, "You know what? This ain't working out for us."
That's the setup. That is the setup right
there.
Yeah. We brought someone else in that could to carry your workload. Like, we don't need you anymore. Your services are no longer needed.
Fuck around to be a security guard when he come back.
hey, you right with my man, knowing all the information humanly possible.
Yep.
But next up, we have Mariah being Mariah, as she sets up Howard and says, after getting his favorite pastry, she wants a date night, not knowing that the date night was to a gala so she could spy on Jensen and did not have anything to do with them having a date night. Again, this is just Mariah just not caring about her family. It is what it is at this point. And her obsession with finding out what's going on with the judge weighs way more than anything else to her right now. So that is the most important. I don't think it's anything else to talk about there or put into any conclusion. The next up is Tao in the classroom, as for some odd reason, and this is an odd reason to me, he decides to pinpoint a white student after he missed so many classes that the students are literally pointing out, you're going over work we've already studied, that the other professor who was filling in for you already went over. But here we see this is just Tao. It feels like letting out his anger for everything that's been going on with him on this one student. I know it seems like it's justified to some people, and some people may attempt to justify this. This is the most unprofessional thing a teacher can do to a student because he let all his anger out on this kid.
I didn't even, man, this was so wild. I didn't see none of this at all. I just thought that, because I don't know, man. I remember being late to class. When you late to class, they make an example of you. And he came late to class. He acted like he wasn't interested. He sidebarring. He acted like he was better than this situation. And so he just decided to say, like, cool, since you know everything, you're going to answer all the questions. I honestly didn't see him take it out on him like that. So that's interesting. But yeah, I mean, I can see it both ways, though. I can see why you say that and why that could be the case. But I honestly didn't see it that way at all.
I paid attention to when a student got in the class and Tao said, you're late. And he said, oh, I wasn't expecting you to be here because you haven't been.
I mean, now you gotta square up on that one.
It kind of pinpoints exactly what his issues are with the dean, which is your students don't even like think you're ever showing up to class. So yeah, if I got a teacher who ain't showing up, it's a good chance I am not going to be at the time of this class. And then even after I show up, I realize you're going over something we've already done.
Yeah,
like you are so behind in the syllabus because you missed so much time. So I think at that point, that was the anger of Tao, is that he felt disrespected, but it was partially because he understood I've not been here. But I'm mad that the dean didn't give me no excuse for the cops beating me up. So I'm gonna take it all out on this one right here.
My man did not get no excuse leave. He said, you know what, you can take this leave without pay. We'll call it a day.
Exactly.
See ya, black ass. I hope they get you again.
Exactly. But next up, we go right back to 2015, and this is when the judge and Mrs. Garland arrive back at the house. And the judge quickly asks, who was in that white truck that's across the street? And Tao tells him it was the window guys that you hired. And the judge goes ballistic and says, did you let them in the house? And Tao says, yes. And Miss Garland comes out and says, do we need to call somebody right now to take care of this situation? As a guy comes down the steps and says, it's no need to do that, as he proceeds basically to threaten the judge over something. Never pinpoint what it is. He threatens the judge over something and then leaves the house as Tao and Kimber are just there wondering exactly what's going on. What did you think about that whole setup of this scene with now these new people being introduced in an old timeline of people we need to worry about?
Yeah, I guess it's going to just show us just how long this situation, or how long has how long has this entire family been targeted by whoever these folks are behind. And I think it's more and more pointing towards what's his name, the Jensen. I think it's pointing more and more to Jensen and his homies, and just the situation that it has been between the two parties for the years. So yeah, we'll see.
And next up, we get Mariah and Howard out on their date night at a gala that he called boring to begin with. And immediately she does exactly what Uncle Jack told her not to do, as she decides to corner Jensen as she sees him reveal who she is and starts asking him questions that he immediately blows her off completely.
Yeah.
I'm not going to talk about it here because I want to talk about it after the other scene, exactly what Mariah did there, because clearly that was crazy. But next up is Tao on campus as Kimber's boss, who's now we realize is also an alum of this school. asks to check on Tal, asks him how is he doing, and Tal goes ballistic and says, "You've been fucking my wife.
Now,
That's how I'm doing here."
now this is a hate crime. I can't even. This is fully a hate crime. Lock Tal up all the way.
Tal pushes him and says, "I will fuck you up," and they begin to fight on campus. As Tal punches him very weakly, he punches Tal extremely hard. And Tal falls back and he tells Tal, "I'm not fucking your wife because I'm gay." And we see the look on Tal's face as the students are recording it. And magically, right in the background, Asian Dean is just staring at Tal, knowing she got her wish. Fully like, okay, you gone now, buddy. What did you think about the reveal with Kimber's boss?
Yeah.
One, he is definitely not the person she's with because he's gay. So he's definitely not the person that she was sleeping with.
Yeah, I mean, they're going to have to do something in order to, again, enhance the suspicion. It would have been too easy if it was him. So I was cool with this. Made a lot of sense.
And next up, we get possibly the biggest reveal of the episode as we go back to 2015. And this is when Mrs. Garland tells the judge, "We need to tell the kids about the arrangements." This is the first time anyone outside of a letter has mentioned anything about any arrangements on this show.
Yeah.
Because we actually haven't heard vocally the judge mention anything about any arrangements. We just know everyone else has been asking Tal about them. But here we get them to argue over telling the kids anything, down to at the end, the judge forbids his wife from telling the kids about these arrangements. What do you think about this reveal that Mrs. Garland also knew about these arrangements, and that at this point the judge didn't want any of the kids to know about the arrangements?
Yeah, it's an interesting dynamic that it seems like the mom was more about. I mean, we talk about this also in a lot of shows about keeping secrets from the kids and how it could be detrimental. And well, it's been this has been the result of that throughout this entirety of this series so far. But it's interesting to see that the mom was the one that was advocating for the truth and the transparency. She was even willing to challenge her husband on this. He even, as we see later on, when you talk about a dying creed here, like
declaration,
and which makes his death even more interesting now because given that the death is considered, well, one, some may consider natural causes, but I don't think he would have not given his word to his wife, especially considering her situation, if he had known that his death was going to be untimely. Maybe he thought he had additional time and so on. It's just, it really changes. I think it just shifts everything on the board just a little bit more now, knowing that he had a purpose upon her death. And she was the one that wanted to make sure that the kids knew. And I also think because not only just because of the transparency, but also because I felt like this was something essentially that could have protect them, but keep the siblings together.
Okay. Yeah. Let's stay at this point. Just stay in 2015 for the remaining two scenes that's pivotal to this timeline. The next one up, it was Miss Garland as she reaches out to the kids. She ends up reaching out to Tal and telling them, "You need to get your brother and sister together because I have something to tell you all." And it's left at that, as we can clearly see. Again, she is extremely sick here as she tells this today. Next up in 2015, we get Tal and the judge talking. Two important things happen here. One was to talk about Kimber. And we see here that Tal is very adamant. He does not fully trust her or think he's going to be enough for her, as the judge tries to reassure him, like, all married people think this. It's going to change with time.
Yeah.
Really see that didn't happen. And then at the end of it, Tal brings up, as the judge tells him he's about to go away to New York, and he says, "What, you're not going to be at the family meeting?" And the judge asked, "What meeting?" He said, "The meeting Mom set up." And then the judge quickly shifted as he pivoted, realizing exactly what that meeting was going to be for. Said, "Oh yeah, I forgot. Don't worry about it. I'll be here. And then the last scene we get from 2015 is Miss Garland being in the restaurant as she's awaiting the kids to arrive for the meeting. And Maitre D says, wow, I can't believe I remember that word. Say the party's in the back as she arrives, and it's just the judge as he tells her, I told the kids you weren't doing good and we had to reschedule. And he goes on to saying, I thought we came into agreement that we would not tell them about the arrangements. And she was very adamant of saying, no, you came to an agreement you don't want to tell them.
Now why he try to gaslight her like that? Like, come on now. Like, that doesn't even make any sense. But okay.
Exactly. But this is where she lets him know, like, one, I'm done fighting this disease.
Yeah.
I just want to be peaceful my last couple of days. He begs her not to leave him. And that's the saddest part of this, because he's not talking about leaving in the sense of getting a divorce. We know exactly what he means by begging her not to leave him. Yeah. But she makes him promise to tell the kids about the arrangements. What did you think about the closing scenes of 2015 for the episode?
I mean, I think something like that always becomes the ultimate motivation for anybody. His wife, we know how much she means to him. I think for whatever bit of madness or insanity you think it goes on in the judge's head, that she represents that moment, that place of peace, that place of reasoning. I think everybody has that person in terms of couples. So I think and we see these type of characters all the time, you know? So I think that you start to think what happens when she's no longer here, when he doesn't have that consciousness, with that moral compass, you know what I mean? That person that, you know, while he wants to care for the kids one way, she obviously is going to know best, you know, and when that's no longer there, what happens, you know? So I think this is definitely a very key moment in terms of understanding what sends the judge in the direction that he goes upon with how he interacts with his kids, and also to just beyond anything else. I mean, he's still a man that has to live his life. So you will have to think, like, you know, her absence, how does that helps him conduct business? Does things that was once okay now becomes a problem, you know? It's definitely a very big moment in terms of the character development for the judge.
Yeah, and it's a good thing to point out that the judge isn't the only one who knew about these arrangements. The point that him and his wife were so close that whatever these arrangements was, she knew exactly what they was.
Yeah.
And was all about telling the kids so they weren't left in the dark about that. But then just how long did she not think it was necessary to tell the kids, where it was just between those two? I think that's going to be the interesting part. And I wonder, are they going to go back to the time where both of these two find out what those arrangements are? Or we get it from them two what these arrangements are? Because I'm wondering, are the arrangements the judge's arrangements?
Yeah.
Or could it be Mrs. Garland's arrangements?
Yeah.
Like, you kind of wonder exactly where that's going to lean to. But
I mean, and on that note, though, it all becomes down to, like, then what's the interest from everybody else? And then, so, you know, I think it's to me, it feels like a parental sort of arrangements in the care of the kids, in the sake of the business, maybe some money.
That's, you know, that's always put two and two together. Like, he's a judge. There's no telling what arrangements he made.
The burn book that he has.
Exactly.
What did they call it? It starts with an L. It's the name of a book, and it starts with an L. I know y'all gonna help me. Ledger. Thank you. Yes.
I still use a ledger. That's the only reason.
Yeah. Definitely. I mean, that right there, you know, is what it reeks. And who names are involved, what accounts are they connected to, you know.
Exactly. And always remember,
go ahead.
Any judge's biggest confidant is their spouse. They tend to know everything.
Ain't no way around it.
These two as examples, but look at Clarence Thomas and Samuel Ito if you want to know just how big confidence their significant others are to both of them too. Like they know
Yeah.
everything humanly possible. So it would be
Yeah.
not a surprise in the world that whatever he's going through, she knows everything of it.
Yeah, and I mean, we're not going to say the names, but you know, the guy that went to jail, hung himself, and his island. Who was the next person that they were after? The wife, because they knew, like, no question, we know who else knew what was going on and who was behind all of this, which means that her fate would be obviously to the same equal what they would have gave him. So I think, like, yeah, considering what we know the judge is involved with, let's just go across the board here now. We know he's involved with the government. He's obviously involved with the legal system. He's obviously involved with some big hedge fund folks. So we talking Wall Street. We talking about, you know, the folks that shifts the economy by you know, getting in stocks, getting out of stocks, whatever it may be, building grants, all these sorts of things. I mean, these are the things, as they like to say, builds America. Yep. These are some, you know, if this was realistic, you will certainly for sure Donald Trump name is inside this book. Like that's what that's Jensen. We're talking about. Yeah, that's oh boy. Yeah. Honestly.
You never know. I think Mariah was very adamant to pinpoint, like, hey, maybe he's going after them because of a case. So if that's the case, like, how deep does this go?
Yeah.
Like, again, is there something left to think about? But let's go back to the gala with Mariah. The first thing was this meeting at the gala when she runs into Judge Wainwright. With more interest than anything is Judge Wainwright asked her about her thoughts about her dad. Did she come up with anything else about it? She says no, she would keep him posted. But as she's leaving, it's a look on his face that almost says, I'm not worrying about you finding out anything else. As then her and Howard go to their table to sit down. And here we see the window man from 2015 sitting at their table.
Crazy.
And he proceeds to call her by her name, tell her how many kids she has, says Howard's name, and proceeds.
Hold on. Now let me just make a funny here. When she said five, when he said 5 kids, I'm sure she had to sit there and count on her fingers. She's like, I guess I do have 5, because I don't think we've seen but maybe one scene at the table, all of them all in one shot. So considering that
that's it.
Considering that the viewers may not even know that, and the fact that her husband's like, "Oh, you're home. Oh, I live here." Well, I don't know. We're going to have to check the lie detector on that one, because she definitely does not be in that residence like she lives there. That might have baffled her.
Knows more about her family than her.
Yes, that might have baffled her. It's like, wait, 5? Right? Are you sure? like,
oh shit, it was a baby crying in the house the other night. Damn it, I forgot all about that baby.
Boy.
But
shout out to whoever's watching all 5 of them too. That might be the real mom.
No, remember she said. Was Helen her friend who says,
"Oh, that's right.
You got it all, and you got a built-in nanny. You got a live-at-home nanny."
Yeah,
of course. Like Mariah's basically Kim.
Wait, was she not talking about the husband?
Hey, no. How it still works? Because somebody got to make money. Because keep in mind, Mariah's doing all of this and spending loads of money in her investigation. She does not work for a living here.
Yeah,
it's only one person in this household that works.
Yeah,
so that is key also to pay attention to. But again, it's him completely threatening their family, saying it's not safe, the things that you're doing, and you need to watch over the kids because you never know what can happen to them. As Howard stands up, as he notices is a threat, as the guy says, "Oh, my bad, I'm still sitting in the wrong seat," and he walks off. And then we get a blow up between Mariah and Howard, as Howard put 2 and 2 together that we are not here because you wanted a date night. We're here because you're looking into this again. As at the end, he tells her, you need to drop this immediately. This guy just threatened our children. What did you think about this whole scene down to Judge Wainwright, who we assumed was on Tyler and Mariah's side?
Now,
down to this introduction of this guy again from 2015, Quickly again, we see him all over again, him threatening her family, and then Howard's blow up.
Now, you know, my man is sick and tired of her shenanigans at this point. You know, it's weird because it's just kind of like we see a man finally stand up to his wife and their shenanigans, and he had enough. He didn't care about what people thought, what people were looking at. He let her have it, and I think I don't want to say like how he responded was justified, but he's right. It is. I mean, come on now. Somebody come to you that you ain't never seen before, and they know your wife up and down. Then they start talking about your kid. Like, all right, hold on, man. I mean, honestly, it's kind of interesting that he ain't lay hands on that dude at that rate, because that's. I mean, that's.
He said
that could be taken. Yeah, that could be taken a lot of way. Like, either this dude is a creep, or he's extremely dangerous. Whatever he is, he got to get up out of my face because he know too much and he too close, and this ain't a good look, you know. So, but I mean, you know, for him to be able to understand that it has to do into her tampering here or pandering, not pandering, tampering. More of her tampering into this particular person's life, and I mean, like, yeah, it's kind of those one of the things. Like, as much as she's diving into his or trying to get into his, he did the same to her. So.
Yep,
she is the problem here.
Hey, it's like Uncle Jack was right. Get away from him.
Yeah,
and Uncle Jack literally told her, "Your whole family will be in danger if you keep on pursuing this."
Yeah,
and then this happens, and the whole family is immediately put into danger.
Yeah,
and that's why Howard responds the way he does.
Yeah,
but next up we have Tao as he continues to have the worst day ever. As right after his big blow up, as he performs a hate crime on campus for everyone to see, the dean pulls him in and at this point tells him,
"That's it.
Time off is mandatory."
Yeah,
she didn't fire him. She said, "This is a mandatory sabbatical."
Giving to Vince Carter, this over. It's over.
Hey, hey, almost. She's lucky he didn't hit. He's lucky she didn't hit him with the Vince McMahon jump. The "You're
Hey, yo.
But right after that, as Tao, as sad as humanly possible, goes home right after kissing his lovely wife in the morning, goes over the door, everything is dark, Kimber's nowhere to be found, and he sees a note as he calls her, and she just, you know it's bad when you call your wife, your husband, your significant other, no matter who it is, if they answer what? Just understand you in for a long day.
Yeah, you better, just act like your phone lost service or died immediately. There's nothing good coming out of that conversation.
Nothing. As she tells him, "You don't think I would find out that you had a fight with my boss on campus?"
Back to the doghouse you go, sir.
That because of everything that's going on with Tao, it is best that she leave and takes their son with her, as Tao is again having the worst day in the world. But next up, because we're still staying in this timeline, is one of the meetings I couldn't wait to see happen after this, because I knew that Mariah's feeling towards Kimber. But Mariah arrives at Tao's house to check on him, notices everything is in shambles there, and she goes here to tell Tao basically she's done. She's not pursuing this anymore. After the threat, she's finally take heed to him. Tao gets mad and says, "One, you started this pursuit, and then you're just gonna leave it?" And then he decides to say the most hurtful thing in the world to her after he tells her that Kimber has left him. That's why the place is in shambles. I think it was first Mariah told him, "I understand why she left you.
Yeah.
You're soft. You've always been soft. She's probably out there trying to find somebody to fuck that's stronger now anyway." To say that to your brother is one of the most hurtful things in the world.
Yeah.
Right after that, after she tells him she's done,
he loaded up the clip. But he put a extender on this one. He said, "All right, hold on now."
As he said, "You're giving up like you always do." Dad
man.
would be the most disappointed in you. So go back with your rich white man.
Hide in your big mansion.
Escape from everything and hide away.
Yeah, you're
What
a
do you think
coward.
about the sibling blow up here?
It's to me, I know this is a hurt people thing, and that's truly it.
Mm-hmm.
But understanding that how they chose to attack each other is because they both know what ticks them off. And notice how Tao didn't respond about her husband per se. He went after about the optics of how the dad viewed with everything that the dad said and everything about her placement with the dad in terms of the dad acceptance. The dad said something about if you go to him and and this life, you're gonna give up on everything. Man, listen, that he could have easily just said, he could have probably just said something along the lines of like, that's why dad never liked you because you can never get anything done. She would have probably got just as mad because that's her whole thing is wanting to be the alpha in the family and had to continuously prove herself. And the fact that that's what he went after and knows that was going to hurt her. Didn't go anything about, well, your husband is probably with some other person or you ain't a good mother. The good mother thing wouldn't have did nothing to her.
No, she'd have breezed that shit off like it was nothing. She probably would have said, man, fuck them kids.
Yeah, but yeah, either way, I mean, like they just knew exactly how to attack each other, which is even to the next scene or the next moment where he's just like, don't call me anything like that. I mean, this is hurt people stuff. He doesn't really mean that. They'll be back cool in just an episode, should we say? But I mean, they just knew exactly how to get each other in their feelings. And
that's how
it should be noted too. It looked like she was about to cry. He definitely hit her deep. So
again, you can say those words because you absolutely love someone enough to know what will hurt them the most.
Yeah.
And then as a black woman, the point you said, go to your rich white husband and escaping that's hitting at a point where clearly we understand, like, even that in their family, that relationship is still looked upon a certain way. Not just because Hal was rich, but because Hal was white.
Yeah.
So that perception alone is something that anybody in an interracial relationship always carries with them. So, and Tao knew that would be a sore spot for her. And that's why he attacked her. But it's almost identical to the way she attacked Tao.
Yeah.
I think their whole family thinks Tao is weak. And that Kimber runs everything. So why not just pinpoint that? Your wife runs everything anyway. Why wouldn't she want to go find a stronger man? You've always been weak. She said you've always been weak to her brother. That's a hell of a thing to say to your brother in that moment. But again, it's hurt people. But next up is Tao receives a call from our favorite cousin in the whole wide world of the show. And that is cousin Sally, as she has checked herself, which I ain't gonna lie, I laughed a little bit when I realized she checked herself in for rehab for drinking, because that was the whole joke from the other 2 episodes we saw of Cousin Sally, is that she was drinking at any time of day that she wanted to. But right after she checks herself into rehab, Tao goes to visit her. And they have a touching moment, and then she goes to tell Tao, I did not destroy the book that Addison wanted me to. Because if he wanted me to destroy it, I figured it would be too important to actually do it. And she tells Tao, if you want it, you can go to my car and get it. What do you think about the big reveal that the book was not destroyed?
No surprise here. Absolutely no surprise, man. You know why? Because I'm going to tell you right now, this is going to sound like some crazy shit. And I'm just going to just say, I'm not talking about everybody. I'm just telling you that I've seen these things happen on one occurrence. You ever like deal with folks and you're like, man, I'm about to just donate this, and or you're like, oh, I just don't want it, and the immediately response is, well, I'll take it. You can't give nothing away without somebody else trying to see the value in it. Don't matter what it is. This is why Black folks, you can't take them nowhere, because it could be something that's free, and how many they gotta take? 20. It's like,
you gotta take enough just in case.
For whatever reason. But all you should have is one. To me, this was one of those type of things where she didn't know what it was and what value it had, but she immediately thought it has value. I need to keep it. She didn't even, her first response wasn't even like let me call one of the other siblings
Kids to see if they want it. Yeah.
You know, nothing. Hey, I don't feel good about doing this. Do you all want to I don't think I should be responsible. No, it's like, oh,
you had me steal it, so I don't know why would I take it. So one of y'all want to get it instead, and we just tell them I destroyed it. None of that. It was in the trunk of her car.
Yeah, and also too, I think because we know she's battling her sobriety too, and I think that it shows that those habits where she needs things of value in order to support her habits here, which is why just going forward, in case anybody was wondering why is her car in the impound lot. Well, responsibilities, I would assume here, right? Oh, lack thereof. Yes.
Well, remember though, she was pulled over. They automatically she immediately checked herself into rehab afterwards. So I don't think she even cared about the car anymore. She just understood, because I think that's why it was such a touching conversation between her and Tal when he said, "I'm proud of you," and she said, "What would you be proud of me for?" He said, "The point that you're even seeking help," because we know a lot of folks wouldn't. But the point is, she knew this is a problem I can't control. At that point, I don't think she cared about that car.
Okay,
like it was a situation where, look, I'm a drunk. It ain't doing me no good to have it anyway.
Yeah.
So I think that's what it was more than anything with Cousin Sally. It's like, I don't care about this car right now. Yeah. I'm more important than this. Once you got to have some type of money. Rehab centers are not cheap, and they're not free.
Not at all. Yeah. Yeah.
So something of the two. But the next scene, we get Tal as he arrives at the impound lot, retrieves the book, and the end of the episode is the 2015 scene between the judge and Mrs. Garland, and that's when he promises to tell the kids about the arrangements. What do you think? Your closing thoughts on episode 6 of Emperor Ocean Park.
Yeah, I think we're finally about to start to get some answers about what they are. He has the book. It's nice and blue. We're going to see what's in there, but it looks like a photo album, if you ask me.
But yeah, when he first got the scrapbook in the first episode, it looks like it was just an album that possibly the judge put together, because we already know it's clippings in there. We just don't know what the clippings are.
Yeah. I think, like I said about his untimely death, that was he going to stick to his word? I would assume yes, but I think his death has something to do. The timing of his death has something to do.
Yeah.
A significant reason as to why he didn't do it. I think he had to get the right intentions, but obviously something prevented that. So I think it was one of those type of things where we could assume that the judge was like, "Oh, I'll get around to it. I'll figure out the right time." But the untimely death, murder, I would assume is the reason why. And maybe that's why it's assumed to either be a heart attack, because that's those things kind of come out of nowhere, or murder one way or another. It's why somebody possibly was trying to prevent it from ever becoming a discussion to the kids. Yes. So I don't know.
You just never know. And that's the key part of the way they're pacing the show out, is because that's still a mystery that they're leaving open.
Yeah.
But now all we know now is that Tal clearly has the book. So maybe we'll start getting some answers from it. So audience, let us know, what are your thoughts about Tal retrieving this scrapbook and what will be revealed? What are your thoughts on Tal and Marai's relationship moving forward? And they went all guns a-blazing at each other in this episode. And finally, what do you think about Uncle Jack and this new Jensen character? And who is actually the threat moving forward in the series here? So like, comment, subscribe. You check us out again every Sunday after the episode airs. You come on here, check us out, hear our thoughts and opinions, give your thoughts and opinions, or just check us out first and watch the episode. It's always the best way to do it, I'm telling y'all. I've never done that way, but that's what I hear from most people. But there's been another recap review of The Emperor of Ocean Park. Peace, people. I